Can someone tell me whether I'm audible or not? Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Am I audible? Amindu?
Yes, I can hear you, Vishnu. Can
Okay,
you hear
okay,
me?
okay. So yeah, can hear you. So let's start the session. So hi everyone. We warmly welcome you all to the MERN session organized by the Software Engineering Student Committee of SLIT. So I'm Bishru and Amindu will be partnering up with me to today's session. So both myself and Amindu will be the speakers for the session. So yeah, without any further ado, let's dive into the session. Yeah, the next slide, please.
Okay. Can you show my
And
screen?
yeah, these are our LinkedIn handles actually. So if you guys have any questions regarding the academics or non-academic stuff, you can you feel free to reach us out. So yeah, can you move on to the next slide then? So these will be the stuff which will be covered in this particular session. So this is the day one session, and we'll be having another session as well. So we are expecting to cover all these mentioned stuff within these 2 days session. So we'll be going through MERN stack as we have already mentioned. We'll be teaching you guys how a web app works, Node.js projects, and we'll be giving you a brief idea on how to create your first server, APIs, and all. Yeah. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So yeah, before explaining what this particular thingy is, I mean, what this MERN stands for, what this particular stack can do, I got to know that there are students from the first years as well. So for you people that I know that even when I was in your particular academic year, these words were straight out of like they were like straight out of from a fantasy movie. So even I was struggling to learn these stuff. So I can understand your situation right now. So before explaining all these stuff, I would like to just go through a brief few some basic stuff like front end and what does a front end mean and what does back end does. So there are two concepts which you might have heard these words, front end, back end. Yeah. So I would like to like go through these basic terms. So when it comes to front end, for example, let's say I know y'all have used so many social media like Facebook, Instagram, and all. So if you take the login page as an example of Facebook, okay, so you might have seen buttons, right? Submit buttons. You might have seen input fields where you input your usernames, passwords, right? So once after inputting those fields, inputting those data, you will submit, right? So those are, I mean, so those are the basics of front end. So in other words, the area or the arena where the user interacts, right, with a particular web app, you can simply call them a front end. So in other terms, let's say using another example, if I want to explain you guys about this front end back end thingy using another real world scenario, let's say you're going to a restaurant, okay? So you're the user, you're the customer. So when after going to that particular restaurant, you will be given a menu, a food menu. So based on those particular, am I having any connection issues? Amindu?
Yes, I think you are not visible on the screen. So I
Give
can
me a
hear you
second.
properly, but I can't see your screen. So
Ah, give me a
camera.
second. I figured out.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, I'll leave the meeting and I'll join ASAP. Give me a sec. Is the issue sorted, or do we still have the issue?
No, it's still there. Just turn off the camera, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Okay. So you guys can hear me, right? You guys can hear me properly, right?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you properly.
Okay. Okay. So where was I? Where did I stop? The restaurant examples. Okay, fine. Let's say you're going to a restaurant. Okay. So the very first thing you will be, so you're the customer, right? So in other words, you're the user. So you will be given a menu card where you will be allowed to choose whatever food you like to have, right? And then after choosing the particular food you're gonna have, the waiter will come and he will take the order, and then he'll go to the kitchen, and you'll be you won't be like, you won't get a chance to see what's happening in the kitchen, right? You will tell the waiter that you want these kind of particular foods, and within a minute or two you will be given that particular ordered food, right? So the request you're sending, the request which you are sending right here is the food which you need, and the response which you'll be getting in return is the actual food which you ordered, right? So this is actually what happens in a web app. So the customer, the user, and the way how he orders the food by looking at a menu is the front end, the way how the front end works. And then the logical scenarios which take place within the kitchen is actually what you call the backend procedure. Okay. So you won't be allowed to, the user doesn't has the privileges to see what actually happens within the backend, but you'll be getting the response which you for the necessary request which you have already requested. So that's how a basic front end and a back end works. So I believe that you might have got a simple idea about the way how the front end and a back end works. And I believe that Amindu will have something to talk about regarding front end and back end, right?
Yeah, yeah. Let me share my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Bishop?
Yes, can.
Okay, so I will give you guys an example to elaborate what Bishop said. So let's take Dara's website as an example. So here is your front end. Here is what you see when you go to the Google, then search Dara's on your search. Then this is what comes into your screen. Let's name it as front end. Okay. So this has let's say this has some data like items that have been listed in the Daras like this. Uh, your profile icon and everything like stuff. So don't mind my drawings, okay? uh, let's say this is an search bar, okay? Here is a search bar. So you are going to search something. Let's say earbuds. You're going to search for an earbud, okay? Once you click this search button, front end the front end will do something like this. It will send a request to the backend, and here is your backend. Let's name it as. So now the backend is the one who has the logic to handle the data in the Daras database. So Daras has a, let's say Daras has a database something like this, which will be included all the data of users, then orders, and items that have been listed there. likewise. Okay. So the backend is the one who has all the logic, all the code that who handles the data in this database. So front end sends a request. The request is something like this. Let's say earbuds. Earbuds. Okay, this is what actually a front end request looks like. Once the backend got your request, it's gonna process your request, then send a query to this database right here. So it's gonna send a query something like uh, send me all the year what data you have. So this is what the backend is going to do. Backend is going to process your request, then do some calculation processing, then send a query to the database that actually has the uh, query which will be fetching your data. Then the database will read what the request is, then it will process all the earbuds that have stored in there, then it will be sending all the earbuds as a result. Okay, so now that the backend has the result of all the earbuds that been stored in the database, it will send back all of them into the front end as a response. This response will be storing all your earbud data. Then it will be shown in the front end like these items have been listed there. So that's how a web app works. As I think you guys get some idea about this. So Vishu, you can continue.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, I will share.
Nice sketching abilities you have. Anyways,
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
hidden
Wait.
skills, right?
Yeah.
Keep it hidden.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yep. Yep. So okay.
Okay.
So this is the place where we left, right? Yeah. So
Yes.
now you might now previously I explained you guys what a front end is and what a back end is. So now you might have understood got a basic idea of what a front end and what a back end does. So if you take technologies as example for front end and back end, you can give HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React. Those stand as examples for the front end technologies. And when it comes to back end, we have Express, Node, and so on, right? So MERN is actually a tech stack which actually has a set of technologies where M stands for MongoDB, Express, React, Node.js. So MongoDB is the database. It serves as the database, and Express and Node.js they serve as the backend frameworks, and React serves as the front-end frameworks. So today in this session we'll be focusing on Node and Express. Okay, so can I go to the next slide? Yeah. So I actually explained this one, in my previous restaurant example as well. So anyways, I'll just go through once again. So any kind of web app works in this particular way. So the user sends a request to the front end, and according to this sketch, it says that front end directly contacts with back end, but that's not the way how it actually works, because a front end does never directly contacts back end. So there's always a middleman between the front end and back end, and I'll explain about the middleman in the upcoming slides. So anyways, through the middleman, the front end passes its request to the back end. And if the back end has any sort of requirement to fetch any data from the database, so database is actually a place where you store data. Okay, so for example, when I was talking about that login example of Facebook, when you are, you can only access Facebook if you send valid credentials only. So have you ever wondered like how is it like evaluating, how is it filtering you out? So your data are actually stored in a particular database. So when you submit your username and password, it try the front end sends the data to the back end, and then the back end searches it, it tries to tally your data, the data you sent, with the existing data in the database. If it finds any data which matches, then you will get a you will get the access to go to the next page. I mean the login, sorry, the whole landing page of sorry, the home page of Facebook. So that's the way how a web app basically works. So this flow clearly teaches you guys how a particular web app works. So can we go move on to the next slide? Okay, so this is actually the today's framework. So Node.js, as I've already mentioned. So before I may start talking about Node.js, I would like to start it with this way. So Node.js is actually a framework. Okay, it's actually a framework of JavaScript. Okay, so if you ask me a question like, so what's the difference between a Node.js and JS? If you ask me such questions, that as I have already told you that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript like technologies, they run on browsers. Okay, but Node.js gives JavaScript the capacity or the ability to run on servers. So the when compared to JavaScript, the advantage of Node.js is that this particular language called the Node.js, it allows you to do both front end and back end works. So JavaScript alone, it can only do front end works only. But when it comes to Node.js, as this particular framework of JavaScript allows JavaScript to run on servers, no, you through Node.js we can do both front end and back end tasks simultaneously. So that's what Node.js stands for. Okay. So can we move on to the, yeah. So what is I thought, yeah. So I guess Amindu will explain you about Express.
Yeah, yeah, sure. When you are building your project, if you try to build your web server entirely on your own from the very beginning, from the scratch, I mean, so you would have to write every single line of code yourself. Okay, so you would need to create complex functions just to figure out what the user is asking for when they click a link or send a message. Like for example, so you would have to manually manage how your computer talks to the internet, how it handles data coming in, and how it sends data back out. So this involves setting up hundreds of tiny variables and functions that take a long time to get right and can easily break. So it's a massive amount of work. So in order to save you from all that extra work, we use something called Express.js. So you can think of it as a pre-built template that is already finished and ready for you to use. Someone has made it to make your work efficient and save you some time. So that's it. So when it comes to build Node.js, it comes with built-in functions like already know how to handle things like getting HTTP requests from a user and sending a response back to them. So this means you do not have to worry about the technical details of how data travels across the internet or how to manage every tiny connection. So instead, you just tell Express what you want to happen, when someone visit your site and it takes care of the difficult background for you. So that's it. Vishu, you can
Yeah,
continue.
yeah. So, and before I start talking about the rest of the stuff, I just want to let you know that this particular session is not just a theoretical session. Don't worry. So we'll be giving you guys a hands-on experience on how to do all this stuff. So there is a upcoming coding slide as well. So in the upcoming slides we'll start coding as well. So don't worry. So for now, just try to grab all the theoretical ideas. So we are not talking too deep technical ideas on these topics. So we are just giving you guys a rough idea on what these particular frameworks and technologies can do. So yeah, additional to the stuff which Amindu told right now about Express.js, I would like to add some more points actually. So as I've already told you that Node.js is actually a framework of JavaScript, and here Express.js is actually a Node.js framework too, which is basically used to build APIs. And you can even call it as a toolbox maybe for backend servers. So when it comes to Express, we basically use it for the routing purposes and for middleware activities. So I know that these particular terms will be explained using coding snippets in the upcoming slides. So just try to grab the idea. So when I meant routing and middleware, so routing is actually routing decides like which code snippet has to run on which URL. I believe that most of you might have done more academic projects or any other projects which are relevant to web apps. So you guys know that everything runs on URLs, right? So routing is the particular factor which decides which code runs on which URL. So that's what a routing means. And when it comes to middleware, so middleware is actually, I have told you that when you request something from the front end, you get a response in return, right? So the activities which take place between the request and the response is called as the middleware activity. For example, the authentication, authorization, the validation parts, and what else? What else do we have? Yeah. So those are the stuff which we call as middleware activities, right? So yeah, that's all about Express from my end as well. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so from here onwards, we'll be we'll start to what do you call? We'll start the coding sessions, coding part. So yeah, I hope that you guys are familiar with these terms. NPM. I mean, did you stop sharing the screen or something? Okay, so you're gonna fine. Anyways, I have a small theoretical part which needs to be covered when it comes to the NPM. So I hope that most of you guys know about NPM, Node Package Manager, right? So in simple terms, if I have to explain you guys what an NPM is, it's actually like a Play Store for your Node.js project, right? So you guys have phones, right? So phone alone doesn't make your works comfortable, right? So you need apps to make your day-to-day activities and stuff efficient, right? So whenever you need an app, whenever when you need to do a particular task, you go to the App Store or the Play Store, you install the app, right? You download, you install it. You don't make the app, right? At any For example, when you need a particular task to be done, you just download the particular app. You don't make the app from scratch, right? So that's what a NPM uh, manager does. So in other words, when you're doing a particular node based project, there are some other packages, libraries which you need to install, right, in order to complete your projects. You don't There are pre-made packages and libraries which are available there. You can install them rather than typing them again from scratch, right? So that's what a npm means. In If I need to explain it in another particular real scenario, let's say you are trying to build a house, okay? So for that purpose, you will definitely need what? Hammers, saw, nails and all. So do you like media coinang? Do you build a hammer? No, right? You go to the hardware and then you buy a hammer, right? So likewise, in this scenario, when you are building a node-based project, you don't there are particular packages and libraries which you can download and install. So that's actually a very advantageous thingy when it comes to a node project, but still npm is chaos. Like for those people who know about this thing, when you like type npm I, when you run that command, it installs hundreds and hundreds of npm packages. Sometimes it even install packages which you don't even need for the particular project you're working on. So that's actually a small disadvantage, not a small one. It's actually a big one, but still having pre-built packages and libraries for your coding projects and all, it's actually a plus when it comes to, in contrast to other tech stacks available out there. So I believe that you might have got a rough idea about npm, right? So now in order to start a project, okay, what we for the very first command, obviously you have to make a folder and then you have to import that folder into VS Code. So those are basic stuff, I know. So if you're as the first step of building a node-based project, the first command you will be typing will be npm init-y. Okay. So once after clicking this command, once after hitting this command, you'll be able to see that a particular file named package.json got installed in your directory, working directory. So what does this particular package.json mean? So this is actually it serves as the ID of your project. Okay, ID card. It acts as an ID card of your project because this is a place where the name of your project, version, the important stuff like the name, version, the scripts and other dependencies. So those kind of stuffs you'll be able to see in this particular package.json file. So this is actually a very important file in your project. So this is the first file. And then after installing these files, we'll be installing some other important, what do you call it? So the next thing which we'll be installing is Express. So you would definitely need Express because actually I'll tell you the reason why we use Express here, because the very first root folder which we'll be creating right now will be the server.js. Yeah. So if you ask me like, why do we create this particular server.js on the first hand? Well, this particular file is the place which receives the requests from the front end, processes them, and sends the response back to the user. So this is the place where that magic happens, where that backend logic happens, right? So it's like, yeah, I'll tell you the rest after we implement it. So the reason why we installed Express was you can do it without Express as well. But as Amindu told that, what do you call, this helps us to ease the activity. Like for example, if we do it without Express, uh, we might like for example, if we use Express, we can simply finish the coding thingy within few lines. But if we don't use Express and if we use the old traditional methods, the project which was supposed to finish within 5 lines would end up finishing 15 lines. So in order to ease this thing, that's the reason why we use Express. So yeah, the first line which Amindu used was const express is equal to a require express. So he has called this particular express, and the second line, which is the const app. So he's actually Amindu has created an instance of express. You got it. So this app is actually an instance of express. Okay. So Amindu is now starting the server. Okay. So this is the command which we use to start the server. So 3000 as in 3000 means that's the port number. Okay. So on this port only we are going to start this server. So the server will run on this port. So once after, so this is the command. Amindu, are you trying to talk?
No, no, you explain. I'll go.
Okay. I thought you got muted or something. Anyways,
No, no,
so this is the command which we use to start the server, load server.js. So Amindu, did you start the server? Have you started?
no, no.
Or even if you
Here,
start the server, yeah, here Amindu.
no, no, go ahead.
Yeah, even if you start the server, there won't be anything because we have just started the server. The line says app.listen 3000. There's no any console logo, anything to show you that the app, server has started. So now Amindu will add the next part, right? So this is actually called as the arrow function. Now Amindu will type a console log. So this console log is somewhat similar to the system.out.println if you have used Java, which you simply call sysout. So this is something like that. So now when you start the server, now previously when we didn't have console log, Amindu started the server, but we didn't have anything. Actually, the server got started, but since we didn't have a console log, we were not able to see that whether it got started or not. But now, if you hit enter, see, now you will be able to see that the server is running on port 3000. Okay. So now we have successfully started the server. And this is actually a middleware, to be honest. So Amindu is now writing a middleware. So this middleware, this allows us to read the JSON data from front end. So Amindu, can you please give me a minute here to explain these guys about the JSON thingy and all? So as I've
Yeah,
already
sure, sure, sure.
mentioned, yeah. So as I've already mentioned, that front end sends data to the back end, right? So there are particular front end can't directly send the data to the back end. Okay, so it can't read because the I mean for how can I explain you that? The reason is that let's say there are people who use different browsers, right? Chrome, Safari, Mozilla, Firefox, and there are people who use different OSs, right? Some uses Windows, and some use iOS and all. So the data which is being sent from the front end to the back end has to be in a format, okay, which has to be identified or identifiable by all sorts of, regardless of the platform, regardless of the OS, it has to be identified by everyone. For example, let's say you're going on a trip to Jaffna. We all know Sinhala, we don't know Tamil, right? So then Jaffna gihing, if we start talking in Sinhala, will that person, I mean, let's say we are going to a restaurant and if we start ordering stuff in Sinhala, will that person be able to understand what we are talking? No, right? So what we do is we take a person who knows Tamil and Sinhala, a person who knows both languages. Then it'll be easy for us to communicate and it'll be easy for the person in the restaurant to communicate as well, right? So the front end data has to be converted into a particular format which can be understandable by everyone. So you call it message formatting. So when it comes to message formatting, we have JSON, we have XML, right? So in contrast to XML, JSON is the widely used one because when compared to XML, JSON has prose. Okay, so that's what you call as JSON here. So it's actually a message formatting system which allows uh, any sort of, regardless of the platform or the OS, to understand what the data is, to understand the data which is being transferred from front end to back end. Okay, I mean, you can go ahead. And that's the middleware which Amindu has typed Amidu, can you please highlight that middleware? So that is the middleware which I was talking right now. So let me go through it again. So this middleware allows us to read JSON data from front end. Okay, you can go ahead, Amidu. And now Amindu is actually creating a API endpoint. Before this, Amindu, can we go to the slides? I think we have to explain some theoretical stuff.
Can you see the screen, Vishnu?
Is this the slide? Oh, is the next one? I think it'll be better if we can explain. Yeah, API. Okay.
Okay.
So you might have heard about this term even back in those days when I was in first years. I tried a lot to understand what an API is because it was so confusing. At last, somehow I figured out the way. So let me just, I hope you guys can remember the previous example I was talking, the restaurant example. So I was talking about a waiter, right? So you guys, I told you that the menu is the front end and the kitchen where the cooking takes place is the back end. And I was talking about this person called the waiter who runs in between the front end and back end, right? So you clearly understood that the at any point the customer didn't directly go to the kitchen and order whatever he wanted, right? So what he did was he sent his message through a waiter, and then the chef gave the prepared food. The chef didn't go to the customer to give the food, right? He gave it to the waiter, and then the waiter gave it to the customer. So waiter here is the middleman. So he is the person who acts as the bridge between a front end and a back end. So this is basically used for the communication between the front end and a back end. So we use API to communicate between front ends and back ends. In order to communicate, we use something called HTTP methods. So there are several methods like get, post, delete, put, and patch. So if we dive deep into these methods one by one, get is used to fetch the data. Let's say there's already a particular data within a database. Okay, so you want the customer wants to see the data. So we use get endpoints to fetch the data, right? And the second one is a post. Post is another API endpoint, API method where if let's say the customer wants to post a particular, he wants to send, let's say, for example, if you're trying to create a new account in Facebook, right? You use post method. So you're trying to send data to the database. So that's what is meant by that's what is done by this particular post endpoint. And delete, of course, it deletes the data. And put, it is used to update existing data, and patch is actually used to update partial data. So it is somewhat similar to put, but it is used to update only particular sets of data, rows and data. So I hope now you might have understood what an API is, right? So yeah, can you go? So yeah. So this is the first route which you are gonna make. So this is actually a get endpoint. So so you call this particular thing app.get and all those arrow functions and all, you call it an API endpoint. The whole thing, you call the whole thing as an API endpoint. And this dot get over here, that's the REST method which you're going to use. Now I taught you guys methods like get, post, put, patch, and delete. So like if you're trying to make an API request, for example, if you're trying to make a request from the front end to the back end, as I've already mentioned, you would be using an API endpoint. So you know the aim ඔයාලා API request use කරන අරමුණ ඔයාලා දන්නවා, right? So ඒ අරමුණ අනුව you guys have to figure out what kind of a HTTP request are you guys going to use. Either it's a get, post or whatever. It depends on your request type. And the next thing, which is within the quotation marks, there's a slash. Okay, we call it the route. At this particular point, this is the root URL. Okay, so you'll be able to see that I've given you an example here. Amil, can you highlight the second bullet point? Yeah. Okay, so in this particular bullet point, I have highlighted that this particular this is the example for the root URL. Now you might be wondering what the root URL is. So this is just basically an example for a root URL. So in the upcoming slides on the hands-on, while we are building this particular app, we'll explain you how a root URL plays, what is the role of a root URL. So for now, just get this theory point. And yeah, can we see the practical implementation, Amindu? So now we are going to build the first route, first API endpoint. So Amindu has already built the first API. So the API method is get, and the place to which that particular this thing is going to get triggered. I mean, root URL means that's the place where you're going to see the result. Okay, whether it's a get or a post, that's the place where you're going to see the result. So at this place, we have considered root URL as the destination. So when this particular API is triggered, okay, we'll get a response saying server is running. Now we'll see how that particular how we'll receive that particular response. Are you planning to use Postman? Okay, fine. Before using Postman, I want to give you a brief idea about this particular thing. In my first years, I didn't have much idea like you guys have right now. So what I did was, I still can remember on my very first project, I implemented the front end first and then the back end. Okay, so that's not the way how a web app has to be implemented. First, the front end has to be implemented. Now you might be having a question like how on earth are you gonna send request to backend if you don't have a proper front end? So for that purpose, we use certain tools like Postman, Swagger to mimic front end. So we use these tools to mimic front end, as in to send request to backend. We don't have a front end at the moment, right? We don't have a front end at the moment, right? So in order to mimic a front end, in order to send request to backend, we use tools like Postman. So then Amindu Karande, he's gonna send a request. Front end true, but front end metana api Postman we are trying to send a request to the backend API endpoint. So the API endpoint which we have just built, okay, you guys can remember the API endpoint we just built, right? So now at this stage, we have to first figure out, there's a drop down menu here. I mean, can you please click on that drop down menu? Yeah. So in this drop down menu, you have to select the API method which you are going to use. So based on the API endpoint which we just created, so the method is get. Hope you guys can remember. I mean, can you please show that method in the code? Yeah. See, so the method here is get. So මෙන්න මේ endpoint එකට තමයි අපි request එක send කරන්න යන්නේ. Send කරන්න යන as in මෙතන get කියන්නේ we are going to get, not send actually. So we are going to fetch data. Okay, Amindo. Back to Postman. So get එක select කරනවා. And this is the place where you're going to write the URL. I was talking about root URL, right? So now we are going to type the root URL. So when this particular root URL is triggered, ඒ කියන්නේ front end එකේ මෙතනට යනවා and then back end එකකින් ඒකට අදාළ respond එක අපිට හම්බ වෙනවා. As I've already told you, we don't have a front end at the moment, so this particular postman mimics the front end. So front end, assume it as a front end, and we are sending a request to the back end through postman. So as a result, request එක දැම්මට පස්සේ we'll get a response in the postman interface itself. Did we get the this thing? I mean the result.
So if you made a change to the servers, you have to restart the
Yeah.
server.
Yeah, so every single time when you make a particular change in the server JS, you have to restart it. There is another way where you don't need to, that we call it node mon. So Amindo will be explained later. So yeah, did you guys notice that when Amindo sent the request to this particular URL, I mean when the URL got triggered, this we got this response in return. Amindo, can you go back to the code? So see that when this particular root URL was triggered, we got a response saying server is running. So we got the similar response in Postman as well. You guys just saw it. So that's how this particular endpoint API endpoint works. So this is actually a GET API. Now we'll try to create a POST API. So we are gonna send the request. I mean, do you have anything else to add for this previous API you were typing? Do you have anything else
Yes.
to add?
So as you guys can see, I had to kill the server and restart it again to get the changes applied. So this might get you frustrated when coding. So there is a utility tool given by the Node package manager. It's basically a free tool. So you have to just install it on your project. You just npm install Node MERN. Okay. So this is the utility tool we are going to use for that purpose. Okay, once the dependency is installed, you can see it here. Now, instead of using the command node server.js to start the server, now I'm going to use node MERN code to start the server. So let's see what's happened. Okay, now the server is started. You can see the log here. Now let's make a change to our server.js. Let's do this. So now I'm gonna save this one. See, once you have saved your changes, NodeMon is going to restart the server for you itself automatically. So you won't need to manually kill the task, kill the server and restart it. So that's what NodeMon do. So you can use it to ease of your. Okay, so Bishru, you can
Yeah.
continue.
Okay. So now you might have understood. Now you might have got a solution for the previous problem which we encountered right now. So yeah. So that's what Node1 does. Okay. So now we have to create another API endpoint. So this time the method is the API method is the HTTP method is post. Can you please highlight that this thing for a second? I mean, okay. So you can see that the method we have chosen right now is post. So I've already taught you guys that post HTTP method is used to send data. So previously we fetched data. Now we are gonna send data. Okay. And Amindu has this time we are not gonna use root URL. So the endpoint is /task this time. So I'll explain you how the endpoint will change when Amindu types the URL. Okay. So before going to Postman, let me just explain you the theoretical parts here. So while doing the implementations in the Postman, I'll explain it again. For now, just have it in your mind. Okay. So here you'll be able to see that as I've already told you, now we are going to use Postman again. So in Postman, we will send a particular JSON body, JSON data to this slash task URL. So that particular JSON data will be stored in rig.body, and when the console log is called, we'll be able to see the sent data in this particular VS Code console. Okay, so that's the theory here. Now let's go to Postman. Okay, now as I already mentioned, we have to change the HTTP method from get to post. Okay, now we have to change the URL as well. Previously we didn't have task, we just had a slash only, but now you know the reason why we added slash task, right? I mean, can you show the reason why we added slash task again in the code? Because previously we had only a slash, right? But now the URL, the endpoint is slash task. Okay, so I mean, you have to change the HTTP method. Okay. So now we are going to send data. So in order to send data, we have to give a data set, right? So for that purpose, we have to select body, and you have to make sure that it is in JSON. Yeah. And JSON. And this is the format of typing a JSON. So you have to open a curly bracket to make sure it is closed. So a JSON has two sides, which is key. You call it key. So this is the key part, and this is the value. And you always have to make sure that both the key and value definitely the key part has to be within the quotation mark. And when it comes to the value, if it is a string, you have to make sure it is in quotation marks. And if it's just if it's something else other than string, you don't need to put quotation marks. And Amindu has the first data set is ID1, and the name is, and yeah, see, since it is a string, you have to make sure that it is within quotation marks. Text, okay. So this is the JSON data which we are gonna send to our backend. As I've already mentioned, we don't have a front end. So Postman here mimics the front end. So this is the data which we are gonna post. We are gonna send to the backend. So once this particular URL is triggered, what do you try? Main test task post. Is it task or tasks? Task, right? So you have to be very careful when writing URL. Now when you send this particular API, this particular JSON, now you can see that the task, it says that we got a response saying task has been created successfully, right? So the response which we got, can you please highlight the line which the line which is responsible for the response we got in Postman? I mean the one which you got in Postman. අපි මුලින්ම දැක්කේ task created successfully කියලා. Yeah. So ඒකට අදාළ code snippet එක. So yeah, so that's the code snippet which is responsible for the thing which we got in Postman. And මේක trigger කළාම මෙන්න මෙයා තමයි activity වෙන්නේ. The console log requested body. As I already told you that the front end sends a particular JSON body, and that JSON data gets stored in rig.body, and we are calling that rig.body within console.log. एक console log का भी करना. So console log करा हम VS console लेके we'll be able to see the data which we passed from Postman, which actually mimics the front end at the moment, right? So we have built two API endpoints, which is actually the get method and the post method, right? So that's actually that's the way how API works here. So here's the thing. දැන් මේක බැලුවාම like මේක ගොඩක් පොඩිනේ කියලා ඔයාලා තේරෙන ඇති. Actually this is the core of those huge codes you guys use to write for your projects. So this is the basic core. So for your academic projects, you don't write two API endpoints, right? You write 11 to 12 API endpoints. So the whole project gets flooded. Okay. So this is actually the core idea of your projects. So our aim was to give you guys a understanding or an idea about the flow or the way how your backend works. So for that purpose, we taught you guys Node and Express today. And do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, audible.
So we missed one thing. So you have to download and install Node.js before you run
Yeah.
those things. So go here and just download the LTS version of this, not the current version. Current version is the current latest version, but the LTS means current latest and most stable version. So they recommend us to use this one. So download it and install it before you going to use it. Okay, that's it, Vishnu.
Yeah. So as expected, as planned, we have. Can you go back to the slides, please?
Sure.
So yeah, we have test API. So yeah, we have almost reached the latter part of our today's session, because the major idea of today's session was to give you guys a hands-on experience and an understanding about Node.js and Express.js by building a server. So and yeah, now you might have another question like when you like now you might have another doubt like when you are building your academic projects, you might have seen file structures, right? File structures having server.js and different other files like route handlers, middlewares and all. But in this particular server.js which we built right now, it actually has all the files which needs to be classified, which needs to be extracted within route handlers and middlewares. So this particular server.js which we have typed right now has all the middlewares, API routes junked up within a single folder. So tomorrow we'll be explaining you guys how to segregate those into different folders, different folder structures. And tomorrow we'll be explaining you about the database. We'll be explaining you about MongoDB and all. So the app which we are planning to make is just a simple to-do app. So and I'm repeating it again. The reason why we thought of doing it is to give you guys a idea, a core concept, or to let you guys know the flow of how this MERN works. We didn't want to build fancy big apps, okay? So it's like pointless. ලොකු තඩි apps එහෙම හදාගෙන thousands and 2000 lines of codes එහෙම හැදුවා කියලා you guys won't understand how this thing works. So the main idea of us of having, the main idea of this particular session is to let you guys have a basic idea of how this flow works. So I believe that you might have understood, you might have gained some sort of an idea. You guys know, right? Ekadavasakin, we can't teach you everything. So the reason why we have such events is to give you guys an understanding, an idea of, to let you know that මෙහෙමත් දේවල් තියෙනවා කියලා idea එකක් දෙන්න තමයි අපේ අරමුණ. Okay, so So I believe that you guys grabbed all the technical terms and the way how the flow works. So the rest, actually the remaining thing, the remaining stuff rests on your hands. So you have to go, you have to make more endpoints, you have to experiment by adding more endpoints to this particular thing which we taught right now, no? And yeah, try to figure out certain stuff. So yeah, it's time to wrap up the today's session. And yeah, thank you so much for joining. And Amidu, do you have anything else to add to end the session?
Sorry to
No.
interrupt, guys. Bishru, shall we share our feedback form very quickly? Please hold on until that.
Yes, Sayed.
Okay.
And yeah, someone has asked us to share the slides and all. Yes, we will definitely share the slides and the recordings as well in the group. No worries. Yeah, shape, shape.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Tomorrow also at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, hello.